In the previous video, we looked at the example of optional.ofNullable. In this video, we'll be looking at creating optional type using optional.off and using optional.empty. So let's create a new class, new Java class, and the class name is optional of empty example. Now let's create public static void main. So inside public static void main, what we'll be doing is that we'll be just printing out hello world using optional.off. So let's create an optional of string optional string is equal to optional dot off and hello world. Now let's look into the definition of off. So if you look at the definition of, returns an optional describing the given non-null value. So the value must exit, otherwise it will throw the null pointer exception. So let's go back and print this out first and run this. So you can see that first it printed out the optional type of optional hello world. Now let's remove this and pass an empty or null, and let's run this. You can see that it is throwing null pointer exception. So with optional.off, you must provide a value, otherwise it will throw null pointer exception. Now another example which we'll look into is using optional.empty. So let's create another method, public static optional of a string. It will return our optional string, get words, and create a string array of words is equal to new string of 10. And optional of string optionals is equal to optional dot of nullable and words of I. So this is basically returning me optional with nullable values. Now we do a check. If optional dot is present, then return optional as, otherwise else return optional dot empty. So optional.empty is normally used when you want to return a type of optional empty. So in your use case, if you find where you want to keep the return type same, then you can use this optional.empty to create an optional object and return it as optional.empty. So in this case, if optional s is present, then return optional s, which is the optional value. If it is not, then return the optional.empty. Now let's run this. Oh, we have to call this. So let's call it salt and get words plus get words. Now let's run this. Now you can see that it is returning me optional.empty. Now let's put some words in there. Words of 1 is equal to test. Now let's run this program. So it is return me optional of test. So the use case is where you want to return optional of empty to have the same conformant type of other return types in the other program. Then you use optional.empty to create an optional of empty.